How you doing? I'm Chef Jeff Trombetta, and sorry about that. Natives are going wild. But anyway, I'm going to pick up on this, so, for the sake of time. But this is a rice pilaf, and this is sprig of rosemary, which I'm going to take these needles off and get rid of the stem while it's staring me in the face. And I'll go over the items that are in there. But the reason why I'm doing this now is because, about 2/3 of the way through the cooking, I add my shrimp and my salmon. All right, and so you get to see that. So let's get that in there. Okay. So that's a good pot of rice, and it's two portions, more rice, so you have extra rice. Okay, so we're gonna season the salmon. I use stock, some kosher salt. I use stock already in the rice, and I season that. It was a lobster stock. You can use anything you want. You can use water, right? But a fish stock. You can even use a chicken stock. It's fine. That's kind of a neutral stock. To help the salmon along, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of white wine vinegar. Shrimp too, right? It seasons it, helps coagulate the protein, helps tighten it up. You don't want to splash too much on the rice because it inhibits the rice from getting tender. And that's it. I could get a little bit more olive oil, right? Just like Italy. I like to splash their virgin olive oil. Okay, so now I'm going to get that back up. I had the heat off. And I'm going to get that back up to a boil, and I'm going to jam it in the oven. It'll be ready in, 5, 6, 7 minutes, all right? It's already hot. It's been on a low flame, all right? All right, pretty low. So by the time I'm done with the next, this will be ready to see, all right? So what we have here is we got another pan, all right? And I'm going to get that hot, and we're going to make, because the lesson is going to be, there's a lot of lessons, but basically how to make a rice pilaf, how to time it, where you could cook your fish, shellfish perfectly when the rice is done, ratio cooking, what type of vegetables you're using, and relative to the quantity of rice, ratio of stock to rice. These are all the things that we want to learn, right? So now we're going to start out with a virgin olive oil, right? Not too much, but enough for the vegetables. So you tell me, I'm not going to give you any amounts, all right? How much you need. The pan is hot. I can tell by the way the oil swirls around. You don't want to get it too hot. It's virgin olive oil. It's delicate. You don't want to smoke it, all right? So we get our aromatic vegetables in, kind of like a mirepoix, actually kind of like a Holy Trinity there from the New Orleans cooking. So I'm not going to tell you amount, but enough oil to coat your vegetables, enough oil to, and enough vegetables to really flavor the rice nicely and not to make it just all rice. These are bell peppers, all right? And listen to your food. It's really starting to sizzle. I want to get good heat, but I don't necessarily want to I don't want any color, and I don't want to burn the olive oil. This is leek, all right, very nice. You use up to the lime green, don't use the real outer green leaves, all right? Get that going nicely, all right? I had some rosemary floating in my stock, so we can get that in there, right? It's a strong herb, so keep that in mind. So this is a full flavored dish, probably go nice with a red wine, even though it's fish. All right, so it's a little hot, starting to throw up some flames. So we're going to lower that heat. We're going to float those on the top. Now, this is my pride and joy. This is Long Island Sound kelp. And so the leek and the celery are more aromatic vegetables. But I want it to be kind of called a seaweed or a kelp, which is a winter algae, pilaf. So generally, if you make a asparagus soup or a broccoli soup, whatever it is, your flavoring, your main flavoring, the broccoli, the asparagus, will be twice the amount of the aromatic vegetables. So the kelp is twice the amount of these aromatic vegetables. The leeks are turning nice and bright green, so I can tell they're cooking. And, you know, kelp can be kind of sticky, so you want to break it up because you don't want clumps of kelp. Kelp is an interesting vegetable. It's got a lot of minerality grown in the ocean, and in this case, the Long Island Sound. It's not salty. Is fish salty? No. It's got a kind of a skin that repels the salt water. It's not absorbent. But it can take a lot of heat. But when it pairs with other vegetables, it takes like an enzyme reaction with the other vegetables. And it kind of enhances each other. Like in this case, the leek and the celery goes well with potatoes, goes well with eggs. And so it really kicks it up just by pairing it with other vegetables. You know, you've heard of marriages made in heaven, like soy ginger, tomato basil. It's the same principle, right? Just together, they really do it for you. All right, so now, I got some good heat on that. And we're gonna pull our salmon out shortly. Now, this is Calrose rice. It's a medium grain rice, right? And, sorry, it's not that much, but that's fine. Would like to have about a cup of rice. But it's not a cheap Uncle Ben's converted rice. It's got some flavor. Again, you know, they sell truffles in rice. And, you know, when they get fresh truffles, to kind of make the rice aromatic, absorbs the flavor. So that's what's happening here in the pilaf. That's why pilaf is really a nice flavorful rice, because it absorbs all the flavors. You know, there's a lot of depth and character to these vegetables here. And so you want to coat every grain of rice. What that does is it protects it from the stock. It keeps the grain separate so you don't have a real gummy rice. So each grain of rice is coated with the oil. That's the beauty of a pilaf. And then it cooks. It gets a little bit kind of sticky, what you want, but just only to the degree you really want. Okay, so now you want to go 2 times the amount of rice as stock. So turn that up so we get a good boil, right? And this is a 2-ounce ladle, right? So that's 4. That's 6. And that's 8. And you want to just cover the rice by about a finger width, really. So you don't really need to measure, all right? And that's ratio cooking. So that's pretty good, although it's a lot of vegetables in there. Now you don't want to stir the rice, but you can kind of position it. Just make sure you kind of equally distribute it, but don't stir it, because then you stir out the starchiness. Now you want to perforate the rice, right? Perforate the rice, what does that mean? That means that I want to have a good boil. I want to kind of perforate it. I want the air and the boil to come up through the top. All right, let's get a couple of these dried jalapenos in there, right? Right, let's partially submerge them so they reconstitute. And we're going to wait on our salmon and our shrimp. All right, we're going to wait on that. All right, so that's perforated pretty good. All right, get it to a good boil. And we can let it cook right there. All right, matter of fact, I'm going to move it over. And we're going to pull out our salmon, all right? So we're going to let that cook. And we're going to get our salmon pilaf out and see what we got there. All right, see if it's done. What was in there about? I think about 6-7 minutes. All right, so let's see what we got. All right, and I think we're about perfect. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good, right? Okay, beautiful. Shrimp is done. You see that? You know, let's switch. All right, let's switch. Let's go over here. Let's keep the heat on that so it's nice and hot. And make sure we got the heat on this guy a little bit higher. This is a low burner. All right. Now, we should test the rice for tenderness. All right. I can feel the salmon. It's done. The shrimp is nice and curled. And here we go. And let's see what we got here. That is wonderful. Really is. All right. A little excess moisture. The rice should really sit. Okay. The Japanese, you know, they're the kings and queens of rice. But they let the rice sit as long as the cooking time. So it takes 15-20 minutes to cook. They let it rest 15-20 minutes. And you know, the rice is a real art over there. They really take a lot of pride in it. But rice is a real art in the Hispanic culture. But I'm gonna feel for bigao. And I don't have any bigao because there's still some moisture in there. Bigao is a Puerto Rican chef taught me this, that you know, when you perforate the rice and you get a lot of heat on the bottom and then you cook the rice, you get this brown crust. And it's a prized crust. You invite people back to eat the bigao. Don't ask me how to spell it because they don't even know how to spell it. And then you know, you don't scrape it up and serve it because then it just gets ugly and dry. But you take it right off the pot, and that's when you stand around the stove and eat the bigao. So we don't have bigao. This is not a bigao type of dish. But there you have it. Oh, one other thing, lastly, is I want to take these microgreens. These are pea shoots, and they're a little bit long. So I am going to cut them in half, right? Here we go. And you want to keep it a little lacy. You don't want to mask the salmon too much, and that's a nice presentation, right? Okay, I'm Chef Jeff Trombetta, and hope you enjoyed the lesson.